Hi, this is Lori, and this is my homework for Paul McWhorter's Pico W course, lesson number 28. In this lesson, Paul taught us how to connect our Pico W up to our Wi-Fi and use it as a server, sending commands to it from our PC. In the homework, he asked us to do something with that, give some sort of command from our PC to our Pico W to make something happen. And he suggested we could use an RGB LED, or we could do something even grander. Well, I'm very behind on my homework because I've been traveling a lot, and I'm actually here at Camp Baylor again, and I decided to try to catch up on my homework. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the RGB LED and catch up on the homework. So I did try to do a little bit more error checking and so forth in this lesson, since I didn't do something magnificent with some other piece of equipment. Well, let's get to it. So let's go through some of the code here, and I'll start off with what I have running on my Pico. So this is my server code, and you'll see that I start on line 10 because above this I have my SSID and password hard-coded up at the top. So that's how I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm not particularly worried that anybody's going to steal my Pico and get my information, but if I lose a Pico, I'm going to change my Wi-Fi password. Alright, so I'll import the needed modules, set up the display with the I2C bus, and then I am going to set up my RGB LED with pulse width modulation. So on the client side, the user can enter RGB codes for the color they want to show on the RGB. Then we'll go ahead and do all the setup of the server that Paul showed us how to do. Connect up, wait for the connection. I am printing, getting Wi-Fi. Now you'll see it's already on my screen. It's already up, and it says the server is ready because it's plugged into my portable power. It's not connected to my PC, so it's already kind of waiting there, ready to go. But while it's getting the Wi-Fi, it'll put that up on the OLED screen. Then we'll do all the connections, get the IP address here, and then this is where we're putting the IP address up there, so you can see that I have that printed up at the top. And put some lines in here. I was just trying to make it a little more clear with the display, on the display, a little easier to see with some lines. Then set up the server port, and I did take a little bit of a look in it. I know Paul said, oh, you need any value that you agree to talk about, but I figured there was some limitations on the value. And from what I could read, the port needs to be a 16-bit number, so that means it needs to be a number between 0 and 65,535. And I was looking around, there's a lot of reserved port values for typical use on the internet and so forth. A lot of software and games have certain ports that they use. So I played around with that just a little bit, and I decided to call my server port the current year, 2023. And that certainly works. It looked like if you stayed above 1,000, you got out of the ports that were, typically reserved. Then I'll go ahead and create the server. So then once we get there, I'll say that the server is ready. And so that's what we see on my screen right now. Now we're into the loop to receive messages from the client. We'll go ahead and receive messages, and we'll decode them. And then I use a list comprehension, so I was also trying to play a little bit more with learning about these, one-liners that you can do in Python. You see a lot of advanced programmers using them, and I'm still a little shaky on them, and I thought I would try to use a few of them in my code here. So I take the message decoded, and I split it up, so it's 3 integers between 0 and 255. That's what it should be. And I check on the client side that it really is integers, but I don't check to see that they're between 0 and 255. So just so we know, I do know that I'm passing a text string with the 3 numbers, and I know that the 3 numbers are integers, positive integers at this point, and it's still all together when it comes over with the message. So then I'm going to split it up, into the three components. So that's what the split method does here with the message decoded. And then it turns it into integers. So now I have a list of the three numbers as integers. And then since I didn't check on the client side, was it less than 255? I know it's positive, so I know it's 0 or greater. But here I just decided, rather than polling the user, you put in a number greater than 255, I just decided if they put a larger number than 255, then they're just going to get the full-on 255 for that color. And so that's what this little bit here does. And then we'll go ahead and say that we received the color, put that onto our OLED screen. We'll show the red, green, and blue values on the screen as well. And then we'll go ahead and light the RGB LED. And so I'm using this 8-bit shift to put the RGB value from 0 to 255 on to a 16-bit value, changing it for that duty U16 function that we need with our LEDs. So that'll light them. We'll sleep a couple seconds, and then I'll print to the OLED that the server's ready for a new color. And I just decided to sleep. It's ready right away, obviously, but I thought it was nice to kind of say, okay, it's receiving the color, and now the server's ready to put another color. So that was what I did on the server side. Now we'll go through the client side code. We'll import the socket, and we'll set up the client, giving the server address and the port that we're using on the server side, and the same buffer size, and go ahead and set up the client here. Then I'll just give some information to the user about what kind of command they can send to the server. So we'll give them the red, green, and blue values, and give them an example of how they should submit the command. And then we'll go into the while true loop, where they can give the command that they want to send, so what color. And I did challenge myself a little bit to try to do a little error checking, as I said. And I'm also trying to improve using of a list comprehension. So here's a second one that was kind of interesting. So I take the command and I split it into its parts. So it should be 3 parts if they've done it correctly. And they should be integers. So this is digit function just checks to see, is it a positive integer? Is it a positive digit, really? Is it a digit? And it'll give back a true or false. So this will keep running unless we get true, true, true from that is digit method. And it seems to work pretty well. Maybe I'm missing something, but I think it worked pretty well. And it'll just come back and say, oh, you did an invalid entry. What color do you wish? And then it'll keep going. Here getting a new input until the user puts something in that will respond with a true, true, true. So if you put more than 3 digits, then you won't get the right answer here. You get 4 trues and you won't match. So it's pretty nice. It catches a lot of errors. And then we'll encode the message and send it on its way to the server. So I thought I'd just finish taping the rest of it, but I decided to add this little bit just to show what I'm using to power my Pico here. This is my little USB power bank, and I bought it. It's one that always stays on, so it's a voltaic, at least that's what it was advertised for. And people said that's really good if you want to power something and it doesn't always draw very much power. This will stay on and continue to provide the power. So you can see this is it. There we go. So let me carefully try to plug this in on the side with one hand, a little tricky, and hopefully we'll see. Boot up. There we go. So yeah, it's booted up and ready to go. So now let's see it work. So I'll go ahead and run this, and you can see down here we're being asked for a color. So let's try red first. And hopefully we see red over here. Yeah, that worked. So let's try a full green. We got green. Yep, that looks good. And how about a blue? And then we can do other ones, right? We can mix and match. So yeah, that's all working the way we we've seen when using RGB LEDs. Now let's put in something that we shouldn't have, like whatever. And you can see it says invalid entry and asks us to do something else. And let's make a mistake where we put too many numbers in by accident. And you can see that doesn't go either. That's not going to pass that that true test. So it definitely checks for make sure that we have 3 integers. But you can see that if I put 3 integers, but they're not in the right range, it goes ahead and sends that. And then you'll probably see that what happened on the server side is the code caught that and turned it to 255, 255, 255. So we got all white instead of the number we have here. So that was how I handled numbers larger than 255. Well, that's my homework. Thanks, Paul, for a great lesson. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching.